Hello, everyone. It's Martha Novak, and this is a show called Real Life with Martha Novak. I am hoping today, since we're in a new location, that we are not going to have dog and cat issues, but we may. So we have lots of animals in the house that all like to get on the radio and on Facebook Live. There's one of them now. I don't know whether you can hear that, but it's going on upstairs. Guys, we're talking about relationships, and it's an extremely important series. We're going to have something different every week, all aspects. We're going to talk about everything, and also one of the things that I think makes our coaching different is that we first of all have the end result of consciousness and enlightenment. That's what we teach. That's what my school teaches. All right. To that end, we have to get over ourselves and get over our childhood issues and the egoic child's mind, because it's about transcending that and living in the ascended mind, right? So that is one thing. The other is we really want to bring everything that doesn't get talked about to light. We're going to talk about some rather hard things and things that might make you a little uncomfortable. I urge you to keep listening anyway. I think it's important that we have the knowledge base, okay? And I do hope you know that we're certainly doing this in love. That's what we're doing here, okay? Just trying to grow. All right, guys, let's do a prayer to get us on our way. And then we're going to launch into the various materials I have for you today. All right, here we go. Dear God, who is all there is, you who are all we are, and all everything is in this world, we thank you so much for our being here and our being together and our opening our minds, hearts, and very being to the light that and the hope that your information gives us. And we're opening now to hear this with our most love-centered self. And I certainly am praying to be in that channel of the most love-centered self as well, that the highest truths may get talked about here. We thank you so much, dear God, as we open to the truth that lies in your enlightenment. And we ask for great insight into ourselves today. Thank you so much. And so it is. Guys, there are 5 things that are generally acknowledged as regrets at the end of your life. You know what those are? Here we are. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not what others expect of me. It's the first one. So it's about being authentic, right? Second one, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Hello, Fabiola. 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And 5, I wish that I had let myself be happier. I think that's an important thing to talk about when we start talking about relationships, because these things need to be in place in us to have the happiest relationship, because this is one of the ways that, certainly general, but one of the ways that we can be a balanced person, okay? And we're not going to be happy if we're not balanced, right? Now, we've done whole shows on relationship styles. I must go back and pick this up because, in my opinion, I think this is one of the most important things we can talk about in terms of relationships. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about avoidance styles. 2 of these are avoidance styles. Actually, let me say this. In terms of relationship attachment styles, they're all avoidant. 2 of them have the avoidant word in there. But this whole thing, good morning, Kat. Great to be with all of you all today. While 2 of them have the avoidant word attached to it, the truth is they're all avoidant. So it's really important to find out what style you are. And by the way, if you go to jebkennison.com, Kennis, I want to say O-N. I hope I'm spelling that right. But it's it's Kinnison, I believe. Jeb Kennison has a test for you to take that shows whatever your attachment style is. I think that's a really important test to take if you don't recognize yourself right away, and you may. Now, here's the good news about attachment styles. The bad news is they're messing up your relationships with everybody. The good news is they're changeable, and that's really important. They're changeable in a good way. They're also changeable in an unfortunate way, in a dysfunctional way. Because if you live with somebody long enough who disparages you and is terrible to you, you'll probably create one of these styles for yourself. But the good news is, most of the time, it goes the other way around. Because as you evolve, as you grow, as you learn to trust yourself and your instincts and who you really are, you tend to grow into the secure attachment style. I do want to say, I've never heard of anybody growing into the secure attachment style without work. You've got to challenge yourself to change, all right? You've got to challenge yourself to change. Change is a scary word for a lot of people, but change is just the growth in God. You know, if God is an ever-expanding set of truths, always infinite and ever-expanding set of truths, always in motion, the key word here is in motion. That means change. Okay? Nothing's going to happen to you, but your life gets better if you're learning and growing and evolving and deepening in you. Okay? And the reality of who you are. So let's talk about some of these attachment styles. By the way, I found, I like my first course on all of this, went on for 4 weeks. You can find it in our archive. You know, everything we're doing is archived. You can find it on Blog Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube. These things are archived. So if you miss a show, just go listen to it on that. And there are a whole lot of things we talked about, just about every subject in the world, that you should check out, because what we're doing is trying to give you a slant on that, that is a conscious slant, what that looks like, what that means in consciousness, all right? That's why I've got to paraphrase some of these articles that I find that, first of all, I wouldn't choose them if I didn't think they were good, but I'm taking them a few steps further just because of what I do, all right? This is an article on relationship attachments that's by Preston Nye, N-I. And this is not the Jeb Kennison stuff that you can read about on his site as well. There were two men. Their names were Bartholomew and Horowitz, I believe, Horowitz. And they found that there were 4 attachment styles. So here they are. You might want to take some notes. Here they are: secure, anxious, preoccupied, dismissive, avoidant, and fearful, avoidant. Now here's the rub. Everybody that talks about attachment styles has different names for those things. I personally like these names. I think they say a lot. And we'll talk about what they mean and why they're called what they are, which will seem pretty obvious. But there are other modalities, healing modalities and relationship modalities that decide they're going to call them something else. That's fine. But we're sticking with those, all right? So let's talk about the most dominant traits for each of these. So everybody should aspire to the secure attachment style. Now, let me describe the secure attachment style, because if you listen in this show, that's what you're going for. That's what you're going to. Here it is. They have high emotional intelligence, emotional fluidity. That doesn't mean a lot of emotionality. You understand that, right? Okay. This is being able to say, this is how I feel, being very articulate about that. They're capable of conveying emotions appropriately and constructively. Very important in a relationship, in a healthy relationship. Why? Well, one of the things that I always find that pulls relationships down more than anything, and this is an umbrella word because there are a lot of factors that go into this that make this an issue on the table, and that is safety. Well, if you're communicating emotion appropriately and constructively, you're not threatening the other person. You're not making them feel threatened, right? Okay. The next point is they're capable of sending and receiving healthy expressions of intimacy, right? Intimacy, what is that? Well, it's not just taking off your clothes and hopping into bed. There is a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual intimacy. And that's what you seek in a lasting partner. It was real cute. A number of years ago, I worked with a young man who was very young, and he was still a virgin, and he had all those raging hormones trying not to be a virgin anymore. Don't ask me why. And he asked me, why does anybody want a serious partner? Why? You know, and he was being very arrogant about it. And I looked at him and I said, because I think he was 18 or 19, I said, you've never had your heart broken. You've never had your ego shattered in a million pieces. You've never lost your job. You've never been threatened by anybody. You live at home with your mom. And when you get out there in the real world and life happens, you've never experienced the death of anybody that you love. You've never even had a dog that died or a cat that broke your heart to lose. You want a loving partner with you in many of those situations. Now, it's fine to be single. I have no problem with that. But what I find is that at some point in almost everybody's growth, they're finding out how loving they can be and who they are as love. And I think a very important thing to realize is that becomes so built up, we want to give it to someone. We want to give it to everybody and all our friends. But how deeply can you go into real intimacy, having someone really know you and you really knowing someone? And you're creating a very natural loop of love, you see? That's what I think we all seek, one way or another. All right, next point. They are capable of drawing healthy, appropriate, and reasonable boundaries when required. So if somebody is haranguing you, very important for you to say, You know, in my practice, not many people get angry. Not many people do. But I was working with a woman who was very bipolar, and she had a very big rage. And I had seen it before. But one day when I was pushing her, because that's what I'm supposed to do, she turned on me. And she just went off in a very unreasonable, very aggressive manner. We were on the phone together. And I stopped her and I said, if you think, because I've never raised my voice to you, that I don't damn well have a line that you have crossed, you're the stupidest woman I've ever met. That shocked her, and she backed off. And I said, good, all right. Now, you talk reasonably to me, or we don't talk. And it went very well after that. But guys, you don't need to, you see, when you say something and somebody else counters you, where are you going to go from that? Where are you going to go from that? It's one fist hitting another, you know, that's what I mean. If you can talk from here even tough talk, but talk from here out of love and out of appreciation. See, she was not stupid. She was one of the smartest people I ever met, but she was doing a very dumb thing. I'm here to help. You're going to square off against the person that is here to help and telling you the truth and trying to be your biggest ally? Well, sometimes. But it's not a very smart thing to do. And I am going to call you on it if you ever do, right? That's what I'm supposed to do. That's an example of the boundary. You don't raise your voice like that. Not when someone is trying to help you and trying to be kind to you. The next point. Secure attachment styles feel secure being alone as well as with a companion. Hello, Sheila. Good morning, dear heart. I'm so glad you're with us. So this point, they feel secure being alone as well as with a companion. Have you known people that run from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship, or can't be alone at all? You know, there was a study done on this a number of years ago. It wasn't long ago. It was certainly in the last probably 5 or 6 years, maybe 7. Scientists, and I've forgotten what university they did this in, but they invited people off the street to sit in a room. There was nothing in the room, nothing to look at, nothing in the room at all. Completely blank room. There was a chair in it, and they had a little button. And they said, we want you to be in here for 15 minutes alone with your thoughts. And if you just can't stand it, push the button. But if you push that button, you're going to get an electric shock. That's not going to be very pleasant. They said they were shocked at how many people pushed that button because they couldn't be alone with their thoughts. Why? First of all, science has proven that the inner experience of you is a lot richer than the outer experience of you. There are a lot more neurons to process information internally than externally. And it all starts with you internally. If you want to read about that, by the way, I've written in more detail about what I've just said in my book, The Life You Want. If you were interested in reading that, you can get it from my website, Novak, Novak.com, The Life You Want. Anyway, their inner experience is a lot richer than the outer experience, and we never give the inner experience any development unless you are in a class. Here I am preaching to the choir, of course, always have, right? Until you start this inner journey. And still you start the inner journey and realize how rich everything is and that you're being talked to by God all the time. And if you're not, keep on. Everything's fine. And that anxiety is just a sign that says, look here, you're a little out of balance in this arena or in all arenas. Get fixed, right? Your body's constantly talking to you, but we don't learn to read the signals. We fight against it. We fight against it. So it's very important to be able to be alone and to not say terrible things to yourself when you're alone. I have a dear friend that is just a lovely woman in every respect for her being. But she never really creates anything. She never really does anything. She lives a very tiny life. And it's because of all the mean things she says to herself when she's at home alone. She hides that because she wants to look good. Guys, you can't hide a damn thing. You know why? It shows up in your life. It shows up in what's around you. So why not just get it fixed? I've laughed for years that if I look in the mirror and my hair is all weird, and my hair is kind of wiry, so often it is all weird. What do? What do you do when your hair is askew in the mirror? You fix the hair, right? Okay. But if we were using this as a metaphor, and you look in the mirror and the hair askew are your issues, you yell at the mirror. completely ridiculous. We need to fix the source of the matter. You see? All the time. That's it. And you all that listen to a show like this and are challenged every week to do something similar like that are on the head of the game. I'm real proud of you for doing that. Now, here's another characteristic of the secure attachment. They tend to have a positive view of relationships and personal interactions. Often when I'm first working with someone who is emotionally suppressed, I'll say, let's hear about your life and let's hear about your emotions attached to it. And I'll have them print out a long emotion sheet, and they have to write down all the things they're feeling that have to do with that incident that happened that week. It's really interesting. And you might want to do this for yourself, a little diary like this, because the same words keep appearing. Burdened is a big one. That came up in my classes yesterday, that someone felt burdened. You see, there's just a very short distance between I feel burdened and I'm a burden. That's the pathological route these things take when you have had them for a while. Well, everything can feel like a burden or a privilege. It's a use of energy. You can feel like a burden, or that your very life and breath and your fine mind and your good heart are a privilege. And you want to learn more and respect more and evolve more and grow more in that. But it's a wonderful exercise, because if you keep seeing words like burdened and harassed and all that, you're in the wrong mind. You're in the ego child's mind instead of the highest self mind. Ego child's mind, fear-based, narrow, right? Love-based, all possibilities. Great hope. No hope either way in the ego child's mind. It's all fantasy. And you're playing back and forth between fantasy and futility. There's no futility in the higher mind. It's just you and God. Something I taught yesterday to my advanced class, they really got it, and I hope you will too. You know, we have often talked about the threshold exercises. One of my favorite things to talk about, because it is so clear and so easy. Threshold exercise. So here we are again at this, but I have a specific place to take you. So draw a horizontal line across a page. Draw a vertical line through that horizontal line. Anything below that line is the ego child's mind. Anything above that line, we're going to say, is the highest self mind, the love-based mind, the potential of you, by the way. So if the vertical line, put at the bottom, my story. The interesting thing is human beings love their story. But in consciousness work, you're going to have to stop telling it. It's going to have to stop, but only when you have resolved everything. When you have resolved everything, what it becomes is the habit of chronically telling my story and not living the creative, empowering, and improvisational life. You see? So, if we're saying that that's the ego child's mind that loves your story and embraces your story and wants to know all about your story and, is histrionic over your patterns and all that stuff that happens there in your story. By the way, your story always has futility in it, always, and fantasy. So if we follow that line, if we do work on you, and we follow that line up so that you actually cross that line and there is no line, right? They're just these marvelous arenas of energy. But if we change the mindset to the higher mind, you know what's up there? You know what your story changes into? it changes into this moment. It's all about this moment. You, in this moment, making it a good one. Do you know this moment's never going to happen again? Do you realize that? Oh, you may tune into this radio show and you may be sitting in that chair. You may be having that sip of coffee or tea. You may have your dog at your feet. But this moment and all its creative difference in life is a jigsaw piece that fits into the whole, and the next moment is too, and the next moment is too, and these things will never come again. You better make that one a good one. It is a life that has a series of these wonderful moments where you're in charge of this moment, and you're going to make it a good one and make it a happy one and confront your issues and deal with it, that give you the kind of life that is freed from your story and in the creative potential of you. Do you understand? Oh, thank you so much, Sheila, for saying that. Thank you. She said she just bought the book on Amazon. You know, darling, yes, and we all need to work on our fear-based issues. That's nothing to beat yourself up over, so please do not. And hello, Pat. Greetings, darling. He asked me what my Halloween character was for next weekend. Pat is an old friend of mine. I think I'm going to go with me because that's scary enough, don't you think? I generally live in a very remote area and there are no kids that come to the house. We have our little, Halloween cutenesses out, but there are no children. So I don't have to worry about eating all the candy myself, So that's it. All right. What I want to say to you, Sheila, and to anybody else that's listening is I wrote that book for people who are interested in doing this. Make that in 2 weeks. Yeah, you did jump the gun, Pat. I didn't even realize that myself. Halloween is in 2 weeks. That's right. Still going as me for the same reason. I'm scary enough. Sheila, back to the book a minute. I think it's a hard read when you're first starting this because I'm really trying to challenge fear. I'm really trying to show you they're there and show you the drama that we have around change and growth and growing. And but I also wanted to show you how glorious it is at the end. And it's a very, very powerful read. And it's real funny because when I first give it to people, when they first buy it, I hear, oh my God, it is so hard. I'm having to pick it up a little bit at a time, read a paragraph at a time. That's fine, right? But in a year, I'm going to show you your growth because you're going to be able to read that book start to finish. You're going to be able to dog-ear it. You're going to understand every word. Isn't that something? And this is how you see you change and you grow. I mean, these are... you can mark your reactions to things, and that really shows the movement. It's marvelous. It's interesting because in my class, I said something yesterday that one woman said, oh my God, I've got it. And this is more powerful than what you said before a year ago. And it wasn't that it was more powerful, it's that she didn't want to listen a year before. But now, she's grown and she's right there ready to receive it. Isn't that wonderful? It really is wonderful. So, guys, be kind to yourselves about all this. It's happening, all right? Why do you work with a coach? Well, you work with a coach so you don't get off track. You work with a coach who'll tell you the truth. And is always pushing you to go deeper so you make faster progress. That's the reason you work with a coach. But if you are determined to evolve, you're going to. If you're determined to grow, you will. You remember that some of the growth is through hard times. So isn't it nice to have an ally with you that says, let's talk about what's really going on. One of my friends is from Long Island, so let's talk about what's going on. Okay. Next point in the secure attachment is they're more likely to handle interpersonal difficulties in stride. They discuss issues to solve problems, part of their emotional intelligence, rather than attack a person, blame a person. That's not emotionally mature. That's insecure. Sheila said, "Oh, good, darling. Yes, it will be marvelous to see your progress, Sheila. And Sheila, you're already a friend of mine, so please communicate with me and let me know how you're doing with everything. And sweetheart, if you have any questions about that book, certainly either write me on email or write me here, okay? Because I am delighted to answer those things for you. And oftentimes when you all ask questions, they result in radio shows because I don't know what you all don't know. And I'm always looking for different subjects too. So we're a team, okay? Good. The next point is secure attachments have resiliency in the face of relational dissolution. They're capable of grieving, learning, and moving on. You know? Oh, thank you, Sheila. Yes, they're capable of grieving, learning, and moving on. I have a friend who married a divorced man, and they've been now married for, I don't remember, but several years. I don't think she ever asked him why he got divorced. And I don't think he ever did the introspection to find out why he got divorced. I'd be pretty scared about that relationship if I were she, you know? I think that's bizarre. When I would go out on a date, I'd ask him first thing, you know? What was your marriage like? Or why'd you get divorced? Or what do you think your biggest problem is? You know? And I'd have answers, by the way, for all of those about me. If I really wanted to make it hard on somebody, I said, "Who are you?" But I had to have a good answer for myself as well. Okay. What I want you to realize in these things, and this article by Preston Nye says this, forgive me, I do not have COVID, but I do have ragweed, and it's out blooming right now. Lord have mercy. Sneezing all over the place. Preston Nye says, and I think this is really important to know, that people with a secure attachment style are not perfect people. They have their ups and downs like everybody else, he says, and can become upset if provoked. I'll tell you what upsets me. You attack my values and who I am basically as a person or as a woman, I'm coming after you. Just the way it is. We're going to have a big talk about that. Come to Jesus meeting, as my grandmother used to say, right? So it becomes very clear in consciousness work why you are mad, so that you can say, you get your toes back over the line. Look at what you just told me. And that's I am supposed to care about you, and this is the way I'm caring about you. Don't you be telling me that I'm telling you what to do. You see? Okay. You don't have to take your vitamins, but I damn well am going to remind you that's what I do. Okay? Good. Yeah, I'm just giving you silly examples, but you know, there's some serious ones out there too. The secure attachment style's overall mature approach to relationships make this a very healthy attachment style. This is what all of you, and you can read more about it in other articles, but this is what you're all aspiring to become secure. Now, let's go into the other three, which are considered the insecure attachment styles. These are really important. If you recognize yourself as one of these, and you know, in my work, I often work with triads. What are triads? Triads are triangles. Do you know that this is the most stable geometric shape, the triangle? Right? Has a top, has two sides. I think that the ego child's mind often puts, for example, personality disorders, I call them defenses, in a triangle. Tells a little story. We use it over and over again. Keeps us safe, right? We end up living by rote, not achieving our potential at all. I find these attachment styles are also a triad if you have them at all. These three that we're about to go into. The secure attachment does not fit into a triad. But these things do. You will have a primary, and you will have a secondary, and you're going to have a tertiary, a third one. You're going to have, the primary is going to have more characteristics. Secondary is going to have less characteristics. Tertiary will have less characteristics still yet. But you're going to use all of these when you need them and when you feel threatened and in your fear-based self. Keep in mind, this only exists in the unpotentialized self, in the ego child's mind, right? Who is frightened. So let's talk about these things. This is not to fuss. These things can be addressed, moved out, and if you know a characteristic, do something else. Don't do this characteristic anymore, right? Okay. Here we go. Let's talk about the anxious, preoccupied attachment style. We're still working with Preston Nye's article. Those people with strong, anxious, preoccupied attachment styles manifest these traits. They're inclined to feel more nervous and less secure about relationships in general, and romantic relationships in particular. So you have you have a fight. You're always afraid somebody's going to leave, right? You're always afraid you've stepped over the line. You're worried that you've met somebody and you like them a lot and they don't call. They're not interested, maybe. Breaks your heart. You watch to see if you have fantasy connected with this, because if you do, you're going to be hurt worse. There is not one human being in the world that is ever going to live up to a fantasy or an idealization of somebody. So if you idealized your father or your mother and you're looking for that, they weren't real to begin with, sweetheart. You're not going to find them. And it's insulting to real people with real feelings and real talents and gifts and abilities and real authenticity. It is such an insult for you to be overlaying something on them instead of seeing them as who they are. And seeing them for who they are is part of the secure style. Okay. The second characteristic of the anxious, preoccupied style is they're inclined to have many stressors in relationships based on both real and imagined happenings. These stressors can manifest themselves through a variety of possible issues, such as being too needy, possessiveness, jealousy, needing to exert control or be controlled, mood swings, oversensitivity, and obsessiveness. All of these things. And there are more characteristics that they can come out as. This is someone who's not at peace. This is someone, by the way, who is very dramatic too. Oftentimes with these insecure attachment styles, a kind of disorder, let's call it what it is, comes to the fore and is part of the mix. And this is the histrionic personality. The histrionic personality disorder. I don't like the word disorder. In my work, it is never a disorder, it's a defense. These things, these issues are more, these systems are more ordered than normal. So I don't believe it's a disorder. I believe it is a defense. What I mean by histrionic is style is that there's high drama with everything, you know. As a matter of fact, you might want to do an exercise I had my class do. I said, choose a genuinely dramatic event that happened in your life. And now write about it, and I want you to go over the top. Everybody held back from this because they didn't want me to see their histrionic, although I see it every day. I work with them. And they were reluctant to deliberately put that down. There was a woman whose grandmother showed up at the school, and she, yeah, there was a woman that showed up at her school, her grandmother, and she knew when she saw her grandmother's eyes that something had happened to her mother. Okay. Her mother was very unstable, ended up in the hospital, in the mental institution again. But when she wrote about it, she just wrote about it as it really happened. Instead of saying, I saw my grandmother, I thought my mother was dead, or if she wasn't dead, she killed somebody, or she was going postal and shooting up the grocery store. That kind of drama is what is required in this exercise. Over the top. And then I had them write about the same experience with absolutely no drama in it at all. And what was interesting is everybody saw where the line was. Oh, wait a minute. I see I'm being real dramatic about this. Look at what I did. Instead of just saying to Martha casually in conversation, I didn't sleep last night. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm dead. I didn't sleep. It's horrible. Oh my God, what is this doing? You see? And we do that. I don't know many people that don't do that. Here's the interesting thing about histrionics too. You can see it overtly, like I just demonstrated, or it can all be going on the inside, like my friend that beats herself up every night when she's alone. That's histrionic. The point is to not have it at all and to address the drama and why you have it. Usually it's because you came from a very dramatic household. And if you came from a very dramatic household, you have two choices. You can scream louder, or you can suppress everything, all emotion inside of you. You understand? Neither one of those is helping. We want you to be the secure attachment style. Okay. Next trait is there's a reluctance to give people the benefit of the doubt. There's a tendency for automatic negative thinking. Yes, they do drain your energy, people like this. Yes, indeed they do. There is automatic negative thinking when interpreting others' intention, words, and actions. I have a friend that has this, and she has the nicest, sweetest husband in the world who works very, very hard. And when he's cogitating on a problem at work, and if, a lot of us work 24/7, I know I do. I don't watch television just to watch television. I'm watching it as a writer, as a director, as an actor. I'm writing, I'm working. I'm enjoying that. It's marvelous, and it's a change from sitting down at the computer and doing this. But I'm still working. And anybody who really loves their work often having wheels spin when you know what? She thinks it's all about her. He's not listening to me. I'm not interesting enough for him. Excuse me, it has nothing to do with her. And this is something I want you all to realize, because when you have anxious preoccupied, it's really all about the anxious preoccupied person, not about a real relationship of give and take, right? And that loop of love going back and forth. So we have to fix this. Okay, next characteristic is they require constant stroking of love and validation to feel secure and accepted. They respond negatively when not provided with regular positive reinforcement. Oh yeah, she can't stand it. If he goes out of town, if he's working too late, drives her crazy, right? And here's the thing about her. She has liked to be a child for a really long time. So she has to constantly ask, is it going to be all right? Am I going to feel better? Is it going to be okay? Come on. We have to stop that. And if that's how you're depending on your partner, whoa, not good. Not good at all. You should have those answers inside you see. Well, he goes on to say what I did about the histrionic thing. They are drama-oriented, constantly working on, sometimes inventing relationship problems in order to seek validation, reassurance, and acceptance. Do you love me? Do you? Some feel more comfortable with stormy relationships than calm and peaceful ones. Why? Oh, you get attention. And the histrionic personality likes attention. What's missing? Is it the partner's attention? No. In situations like this, it's your attention. You know, here's how I taught yesterday a particular point. I said, the problem with everybody not getting along here or there is we want something from the other person. If we're unhappy, we want something from them. You've got to define what you want from them. And the next step is you've got to give it to yourself. That's how to heal. Define what you want from them. I have another client who has a family that is absolutely wacko. There's nothing that she would rather have than approval and love and appreciation from this family. Will she ever get it? No. That she's going to get it one day if she just keeps on long enough is a fantasy. We got to shatter that fantasy. She's never going to get it from this family. What she is not getting a deeper level of it is this from herself. And we've got to learn how to do that in all the little pieces. You see, it's an abstract for me to say, get love and appreciation and approval for yourself. That's abstract. That's not a damn thing you can do with that. Not a damn thing. But you can eat right. You can address your sleep issues. You can make sure that you're a more loving person and you're generous in helping people. You can find substitute families that are really good people and quite different from the family of origin. You can give and receive love and appreciation and approval from them and have quite the nice life. Hi, Lisa. Oh, thank you so much for saying that, darling. Yeah. My darling friend has just said that she's constantly creating situations to make people prove they love her. And that's true. But this just points to the fact that you need to love you. That's all it is, you see? Now, guys, for heaven's sakes, just because you're confronted with the truth is no reason to beat yourself up. It is reason to change. Again, we're back to the mirror image. You're going to yell at the mirror for having it and vilify yourself for having bad hair, or you're going to fix the hair. Okay? So let's find out what's so bad about you that you can't love yourself. Because here's the irony, and I mean this with all my heart. You're not looking at how wonderful you are. You're looking at your flaws, and they're the only things that exist. And you're avoiding looking at those so that you can see that they aren't really flaws, they're just your humanness, and underneath that, you're wonderful. You're just who you are as God. It's not that we are looking to see things. We don't look to see the whole person. We only look at that little part that is our flaws. And I have them, and you have them, everybody in the world has them. I do an experiment, and it certainly works out every time. In my office back there, I have this wonderful giraffe, and I'll have somebody really focus on that giraffe that's doing this that we're talking about right now. And I'll say, I want everything else in the room to dissolve. I want you not to hear my voice anymore. I want you to just focus on that giraffe. And everybody does. And I'll say, do you have that? Absolutely. And then I'll say, now, open up the whole room. I want you to see things you haven't heard before, hear different modulations in my voice than you've ever heard before. I want you to see all the colors and the vibrancy and the creativity all in this room. And we're going to talk about now why you only see the giraffe and not everything else. Because that's what you guys are doing when you don't see all of you. I'm going to tell you right now that all of you are spiritual energies in physical form. And we're so busy beating up the child we were and being on everybody else's side who beat her up, instead of finally being willing to look at who we are and realize, yeah, we got flaws, but for God's sake, that's not all we are. Not at all. And it isn't the flaws that ever tune into a show like this. Okay? Oh, that's wonderful, darling. Thank you, sweetheart. Yes, we grow up at all times when we can. You know, she said, I'm growing up at 60, and I said, why not? You know, why not? Let's live and thrive until our last moment. I hope I pass away a long time from now, by the way, with writing a good book, or with a good book in my hand and beautiful words that please me and comfort me. That's what I want to do. The next point is they dislike being without company, and they struggle being by oneself. We've talked about that. And it's very important to be able to be alone with your thoughts. And if you can't be alone with your thoughts, you know, all that says is there are some things that are not resolved yet. You see, what consciousness study does is it resolves those things. Because when something is not resolved, you're not looking at the whole picture. You're not looking at the whole picture. I'll tell you one. I have, I was reared an only child, but I was right around the corner from my cousin. I had an adorable cousin. We grew up together. His name was Will, and I loved him very much. But at one point, Will got into drugs and alcohol way too much. He didn't come from a really good family. It was rather dysfunctional. It was very dysfunctional. His father was an alcoholic and drug addict. His mother was an alcoholic and drug addict. So, at one point, he became enormously vicious. And I didn't see him for about 10 years because I didn't want to be hurt that way. At his father's funeral, we came back together, and I wanted so to love him. I always only wanted to love him, but I needed for him to find his way, right? And he was still struggling, but not so much with the substance issues, although it had shifted his brain. And he still had the same viciousness. He just had not yet gone after me. Within a few weeks of him coming back into my life, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it was very serious, and he was very scared. And I went through that with him for a while, and then his viciousness got worse. Cancer made him even meaner. I'm not sure what I understood at the time, but I knew that I could not let him do to me what he had done before. Because, and here's the truth, I wanted my love for him to be pure still. I wanted to really love him. And I didn't want him to ruin it. So as he lay in the hospital one day, many times he went back, I said to him, Will, I see you going after people and doing some terrible things to people. And I really missed you for those 10 years, and I want you in my life. but I can never let you do that to me. So I want you to promise me that you won't do that to me, and I will be here every moment with you. But if you can't promise me that, I'm not going to be here. You know what he said to me? Who the F do you think you are? And he went after me. So I said, I don't think you can understand what I'm doing, but I'm not coming back. I'll give you anything. If you need anything, I'm right here for you. If you need money, if you need anything, I'm right here. But I won't be back, and not under these circumstances. It's interesting because you may or may not agree with what I did, but I love him still. And it was an incredible saga that happened after that. First of all, I always called Will my brother. And in life, he always said, no, we're first cousins, right? But since then, he has come back and identified himself to every friend of mine as my brother after he's passed. Because I have so many friends that tune in and they don't even know the story. And they'll say, your brother's here. Isn't that funny? And he has since told me 1,000,000 times over in very odd ways, but clear, that indeed that was the right decision to preserve my love for him by taking care of me and removing myself from the situation. We all have our choices, and sometimes they're very hard. Don't you think for a minute that one was easy for me. I sent him a Christmas present the following Christmas, and I got it back unopened in the mail, and it had scrawled across the top of it in red ink, go to hell. You don't think that hurt? Of course it did. Also confirmed why I did what I did. Now, I do want to say, we have to preserve our love for people. Sometimes it's not as easy as moving away. Sometimes we're married to them. But it is important that we take care of ourselves in that process and take better care of ourselves than we ever have. You need to support you while you're going through that. You see? Why? There's only one reason. Because it's the right thing to do. I hope that helps. All right, the next characteristic, and this is the last one that he has listed under anxious, preoccupied attachment style, is there's a history of emotionally turbulent relationships. And yes, indeed, I think this would be a very hard thing to live with on a constant basis, although people do, right? But we all wake up after a while and go, I've trapped myself. I'm not going to do that anymore. And we change. So take some of these things. For example, if you're drama-oriented and you're making a drama out of something, stop. And don't make any drama. To that end, I want to say something that I've taught in other classes, and that is know the primary emotion, the emotions just connected with the issue, and the secondary emotions, all right? Which are all the ego, child's mind issues that come flooding up, okay? Primary emotion, let's say you have a traffic accident. Primary emotion is, oh my God, I've had a traffic accident. Damn, I'm going to have to take my car in. Thank God nobody was hurt in this traffic accident. I'm going to have to call my insurance company. I've got to answer a lot of questions, fill out paperwork, all that kind of stuff. And you can be annoyed and sad and disappointed in yourself and angry that you have to spend time doing that and take time off from work and everything. Those things are valid. Sure. Those things are valid. What's the secondary Oh my God, I can never have anything nice. My life always goes wrong. There's always something that goes to hell in a handbasket when things are going well. Oh my God, I'm just such a mess up. I mess up everything. Oh my God, that person was so mean to me and I didn't mean to hit them, or they didn't mean to hit me and they were horrible to me, and I'm just the victim of all times. Secondary. Secondary emotions have absolutely no business in your life. If you are being histrionic at all, dramatic at all, you're in the secondary and you're not sticking with the primary. And you would be well off to know the difference. Okay? I think that's a really important note. I hope it helps. All right, let's talk about the dismissive avoidant attachment style. Here are the traits. Now, there are a lot of traits, but these are the most frequent, all right? They're highly self-directed and self-sufficient. They are behaviorally independent and independent emotionally as well. In other words, you don't get much of this person. They're shutting themselves down to survive. I think it's marvelous to be independent. It is marvelous, but not pathologically so. It's not the world we live in. One of the things that keeps people living and thriving and happy and in their longevity is community. These people don't have it. They find every excuse in the world to not connect. Now, it's coming out of fear, isn't it? Okay. They look like a force unto themselves. Okay. Next characteristics. They avoid true intimacy because it makes them vulnerable. And they don't like emotional obligations. So these are people that often will turn down an experience of getting together. They prefer being in their house alone, maybe watching television, looking at the computer, doing what they do. Now, you keep in mind this is a pathological condition. We all need rest, and we all need to, unwind the way we need to unwind. This is somebody that does this all the time. They don't want to have a conversation of any length other than just cordial and move on. They desire freedom physically and emotionally, and they push away people who get too close. And the irony here is a lot of times these people say they want a partner. What kind of good partnership do you think this is going to be? It's not going to be one. So the partnership idea is pure fantasy. It's not reality. They're going to have to lose the dismissive avoidant, because dismissive avoidant people look like they don't need anybody. That's what they say. They don't need you. They don't need anybody. They can function just fine on their own. A wonderful partnership with somebody is a mutual jumping in there and helping. I was so impressed with my husband when I first got to know him, because I would often have dates come in and interact with my classes, my friends, see what I do. You better know, right, if you're going to be with me. So, and I looked over at Michael Novak at one point. Not only is he talking to everybody, but he's over there washing the dishes. I thought, what a great guy. And this wasn't somebody who was washing the dishes to avoid people. He's washing the dishes and carrying on with everybody. I thought, this is the guy who rolls up his sleeves. This is wonderful. And I really appreciated him. Another characteristic is other priorities in life often supersede a romantic relationship, such as work, a social life, personal projects and passions, travel, fun, and so on. In these situations, the partner is frequently excluded or holds only a marginal presence. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really important one. I have a lot of people that say they want romantic relationships, but they don't make one step in that direction. If so, you challenge yourself. Next trait, many have commitment issues. Some prefer to be single rather than settle down. Even in committed relationships, they prize autonomy much above much else. I think an ideal relationship, and none of us have that, really. We're married and have relationships with real people. But in an ideal relationship, we should never forget that we're in a relationship. But some people do. It's all about them and not about anybody else. I think we all, no matter what our attachment styles are, must strive to never forget we're in a relationship and put that first. Okay. The next one. They may have many acquaintances, but they're going to have a few truly close relationships. This is someone who prefers attachment to connection, deep connection. You understand? Okay, they're quite different things. The next one, and this is the last trait on his list. Some may be passive-aggressive and narcissistic. I often find narcissism, by the way, connected to this. Passive aggression is when they agree to something, but they don't really. Sure, I'll pick up milk for you. Of course, I'll do that on the way home. But it's conveniently forgotten. Now, guys, listen, talk to me. I forget a lot of things. I try to make it a priority when my partner asks for something. I really do, because I know that's important to him. If someone is reacting, though, and there is a power struggle in the house and they feel powerless to you having power or vice versa, one of the real safe ways to play out that they're unhappy is through some sort of passive-aggressive behavior. I don't like that very much. I'd rather just tell the truth. I'd rather everybody just get it on the table and make corrections, right? That's the way to do it. Okay. What are we going to do next time? I think it's a really good thing. Let's just talk about how we're going to deal with this particular situation when it comes around again, because you bet it'll come around again, right? It will. Okay. How's our time? Okay. So let's look at the next attachment style. It's fearful avoidant. And here are those traits. These people never forget a wound. They associate with highly challenging life experience such as grief and abandonment and abuse, and keep the pain going. Everything is never over. And everything is over. Every minute, every moment has a beginning and an end. But these people don't often end those moments. They desire but simultaneously resist intimacy. There is much inner conflict. Look at what you say to yourself that you never let out. They struggle with having confidence in and relying on others. They don't like that. Now, I know someone who is just beautiful and incredibly friendly and wonderful, but not close. This is also the attachment and not the connection. There's a fear of, as irrational as this is, there's a fear of annihilation, physically and emotionally, in loving and intimate situations. The person that I'm thinking of had a highly critical family. I'm sure she felt, being a sensitive young girl, that her mother was going to annihilate her. Nothing she did was right. Absolutely nothing. The next trait is they're similar to the anxious, preoccupied style in that they're suspicious of others' intentions, words, and actions. They may, on the surface, agree with you, but when they go away, they don't, you know? They are similar to the dismissive avoidance style in that they push people away and have few genuinely close relationships. He goes on to say in this article that all these attachment styles can be very successful in relationship, but change is at the center. Self-awareness, mutual support, mutual willingness to grow, and the courage to seek professional help when needed are crucial elements to growing. You see, guys, the reason that he says this and the reason that I say this is not because I need the work. It's because you can't find it on your own. You're not going to challenge you on the deepest level. You're going to challenge what you can, and I say, good for you. Go right ahead. But the ego child's mind is going to disguise what's really holding you up because it's afraid. It's your higher self that keeps tuning into a program like this and calling me and other help professionals to help because you know you're not going to get it all because there's a hidden part of you. And you've got to have somebody challenge that and go for that and help you in that esoteric journey to who you really are as the secure attachment style. So, it's extremely important to know what you are and what others are. There's some other articles here. How much time do I have? I have 16 minutes. I want to go into an article. This was by, hang on, who was this by? This is a wonderful article. I thought it was actually quite wonderful on 10 signs that your partner has an avoidant attachment style and how to deal with them. It was a good article. I don't like the title so much because I tell you what, I don't give a damn what my partner has. You better be working on yourself. So that's what I think these things should be about. I think we need to address these in us. So please do that. But this is this article. I do not see, this is under Life Advancer, but I don't see an author. Oh, I hate not to credit someone. Well, anyway, it's the way it is. Let's go on because I think it had some good points. Now, you keep in mind I'm talking about every single attachment style except the secure right now because they're all avoidant. Even there are two that have that name, the avoidant attachment style, but guys, they're all avoidant. They're all avoidant. Here you had the, what was it, the one that did not have the word of anxious preoccupied. Anxious preoccupied is just avoidant. They're just using an anxious preoccupied way. So this article is about avoidance in general. So number one, avoidance, stress, boundaries. First of all, avoidants cherish their space to protect it. They enforce boundaries between themselves and others. These are either physical or emotional. They may sleep in separate bedrooms or hide their feelings from their partners, things like that. The interesting thing to me about the anxious preoccupied is they're all over the place with boundaries. They're not enforcing their boundaries. They do 100% the other way. Boundaries? What boundaries? They don't know their boundaries. They don't know the other person's boundaries. What? Boundaries? So that's a place that you need to get some work done. You either can reinforce them too much or you're not enforcing them at all. Let's find out about that, right? Avoidants are uncomfortable with deep feelings. Everybody, all three of these attachment styles are. This article goes on to say they don't disclose their deepest feelings, even to significant people in their lives, because they, in the case of dismissive avoidance, they want to have a sense of emotional independence, which why would you be in partnership if you want all that emotional independence? This is a skewed way of thinking about relationships, because a really good relationship lets you be independent and in partnership at the same time. Come on. Number 3, some avoidants prefer casual sex. All right, because they don't have to get involved. The problem here is this. You can have, or who you're having sex with can have an active fantasy life, guys, and then you're in trouble because you're creating a relationship where no relationship exists, or they are. That's a problem. So I don't believe in casual sex myself. I really don't. I love sex, but nope. Know yourself before you do something like that. Come on. And know the other person. And you don't know what people are going to do with their feelings. Again, fantasy is a genderless issue. Everybody's got it. You get it? And some of these fantasies are absolutely crazy. Really. And dangerous. Avoidants disregard feelings. They're going to disregard their own feelings, and they're going to disregard yours. And you're going to disregard yours and theirs if this is you. Avoidants want their partners, but not their presence. Darlings, take time for you. You know, I read an article several years ago on the longevity of couples. I've read a couple, and this was really interesting. What makes people happy and stick together for the long term? And what it was novelty. Now, Michael's an engineer, my husband, and I'm an artist and a writer, and we're not interested in the same things. I'm interested in what he's interested in because I'm interested in him and his enthusiasm, and I hope that's true for me. He slogs through my novels and each draft of it, and I think that's a very kind thing to do because the first parts of any writing is drivel. But we take alone time to develop ourselves and then come together and talk about it. I think it makes Michael smarter. It makes me smarter. It gives me some ideas about the world. That he's European, it's quite a different perspective than the ones we have here. Another thing that I read that we'll talk about next week, because we're not going to have time this week, is another thing that makes couples last is empathy. That is feeling for each other. And to feel for each other, you can't be avoidant. Ain't gonna work. Okay. Avoidants want their partners, but not their presence. There's nothing wrong with getting away from each other. But you can't avoid people's presence if you're going to be in relationship. So even if you're an introvert, you're going to have to take your time away, and then when you are here to commit to being in partnership and being together, you have to do that. Avoidants are uncomfortable with intimate situations. I think we've said that. Avoidants idealize other relationships. You know, the interesting thing, I'm going to go back to avoidants are uncomfortable with intimate situations. Certainly you can really see that in the in all things except the anxious preoccupied. But they are uncomfortable too. You know why? They're needy. They want you. But is that really a connecting on the deepest level? No, they're not going down to the deepest level. So that's true of them. You see? You get it? Okay. Avoidants idealize other relationships. Everybody has it so much better than me. I'm so jealous of them. Avoidants send mixed signals. This is particularly true of dismissive avoidance. I know several people that are on dating sites, and yet they abhor who's coming to them. They abhor the dating site. They abhor the whole situation. They're above it. What's the point of being on a dating site if you've got a bad attitude about it? You should open yourself up to see what's there, right? But not, again, without discernment. So I know someone who's dismissive avoidant, and they will date somebody, but clearly tell the other person they're not needed. Wow, that's a mixed signal. They'll be real alluring, and they have all their tricks to be cute, alluring, right? But they don't need you. Wow, that's a mixed signal, and it confuses people terribly. Avoidants are independent, independent, but pathologically so. And certainly anxious preoccupied is not, and yet is, because it's all about them. That's independent. That's autonomous, I should say. All right? All about you, but in a very egoic sense. Can't do that and have a good relationship. And certainly a non-committal quality goes with the avoidance, and that's a really important thing for you to know. A non-committal quality. What is commitment? Commitment to this moment on the deepest level. If you're talking to someone you love, commitment to the love you have for them, commitment to the truth you're trying to say, commit to listening totally to what they're saying without trying to run ahead and keep yourself safe and think of something bad. You see? Okay. So we're going to talk about next week how to overcome insecure style. We're going to talk about traits that most often end up in divorce. We're going to talk about the funny little characteristics that a lot of us have beyond the attachment styles, and what to do about those, and how to have a better time interacting and loving each other. I want to thank you for listening to the show today, and God bless you. You know, we're all, this is an odd time in our lives, isn't it? I think so too. The world is just as wacky. But you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, that's not your life. Your life is just what it is. Let's live it and thrive in it and love well. That's your job, and that's mine. Okay? All right. Thank you so much for those sweethearts. Guys, this and other shows are archived on 3 channels, right? On Blog Talk Radio, on Facebook Live, and on YouTube. If you have enjoyed this show and other shows in our series or otherwise on just shows in general, would you please be kind enough to share these shows on social media and really get them out there for people to see? That's what you can do for me. I'm delighted to be here each week and talk to you about these things, but we're really trying to expand our audience, and I would really appreciate it if you would get some of these words around, that we are for, that we're just trying to tell some conscious philosophies over here. That's all we're trying to do, but we are trying to spread the word. So thank you so much, and by word of mouth is wonderful, isn't it? I really appreciate that too. Oh, thank you, Kat. You're so sweet, darling. Thank you. I so enjoy seeing all of you all on these shows. They mean the world to me, and thank you for befriending us and following us and sharing us, and what's the other one? Something else. On social media. I don't always know what that is. All right, guys. We thank you, dear God, for this wonderful coming together today. And we open ourselves to whatever we need to do and to be aware of this week of what we've talked about today. So we can balance ourselves in you, because that's who we are before the distortions came in and we made a life of that. We are going back to who we are as the authentic person in your energy. And we return to the innocence, but not the naivety, but the innocence that we once experienced, because God is great and the system is awe-inspiring. And we're in that energy. That's what I mean by innocence. Help us be discerning and show us our boundaries and help us defend them, if defending is even necessary, or speaking up. And thank you so much, dear God, for it all. We say this in your name, in the name of the Ascended Masters, our love-centered guides and friends, and in the name of each and every person listening to this show, our friends. And so it is. Amen. Guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week, okay? I want to thank you for everything. You inspire me. Yay! All right, guys, have a good week. Take care.